What is it with teams with the most regular season wins in a season and not winning the playoffs? All four major sports, baseball, basketball, football, and hockey, have that problem. For basketball, it's the 73 win Golden State Warriors from 2016, who were supposed to win the championship but blew it. Blew a 3-1 lead in the final to Cleveland. Of all people, LeBron. Fuck. How about in football? The Patriots 16-0, but they couldn't win. They got to the final and got their butts handed to them by the Giants with their ball possession offense, and Eli scooting and making sure he didn't get sacked and then throwing the helmet catch to David Tyree. As a Patriots fan, that pisses me right off. Or what about hockey with the 65 win Boston Bruins in 2023, crushing it. But then those pesky Panthers came out of nowhere to take care of business, being down 3-1 and winning the next 3 games, including Carter Verhaeghe's Game 7 overtime goal, which shocked a lot of people, and helped the Panthers get to the finals. But what if I told you about there was a baseball team? The baseball team's record is 116 wins without winning the World Series. Now you could say about this, the 1906 Cubs, but the fact of the matter is because A, I've done the Cubs already for 2003, and B, no, any what if has to be a team that does not make the final, like doesn't lose in the final. It's going to be tough and all that, especially for the other sports. But the fact of the matter is, what if I told you there was a team from the Pacific Northwest who got baseball all bunched up in a twist and looked pretty decent, despite the fact that they got rid of 2 of their prime superstars before the 2001 season, and they still won 116 games. Well, this is the story of the 2001 Seattle Mariners. You've got Jeff Diamond, you've got one man, you've got a hat, a bat, and that's definitely not all. You got the bleachers, got it from spring to fall, you got a dog, a drink, and that umpire's call. What do you want? Let's play what if. Okay. Okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. Okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. So the Seattle Mariners, their franchise history takes place starting in the Pacific Coast League, the what they call the third major league, other than the American League National League, but the Pacific Coast League was big. You'd have had teams in California, like San Diego and San Francisco, bringing in people like Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio and other people too, PCL legends. But the super fact is that Seattle had a team in the Pacific Coast League, and then basically they were folded out of business by the major leagues, so they had nowhere to go. So baseball in the Pacific Northwest got a boost in 1969 when the American League decided to put a team in Seattle because the West Coast, they didn't really have a West Coast team. They had the Angels in LA, but they had no other California team or West Coast team, in fact. Although Oakland did get the A's in 1968. But yeah, Seattle was promised it. Now, rumors were circulating that in 1971, Seattle was going to get the AL expansion, and alongside Kansas City. But because Kansas City raised a stink over the fact that baseball would just let the Kansas City A's move to Oakland, and Senator Simonton, they had to move the teams up to 1969. The worst part is that Seattle wasn't ready. They had 1 year in six stadium, a terrible stadium, the Soriano brothers bleeding out money, and basically Seattle was sold off to Milwaukee just before the 1970 season started. So yeah, Seattle lost baseball. But Seattle decided to tie things up in litigation, and baseball's like, screw it. Let's let the state of Washington have another team. So they moved the baseball team into the gigantic kingdom, which was built for the 1976 Seattle Seahawks. So yeah, baseball in the cavernous kingdom is like amazing and all that. So Seattle got their team in 1977 alongside Toronto. Well, Seattle was supposed to be paired up with Washington for the expansion in 1977. But due to the fact that, Washington didn't really have a baseball ready mentality, and also that Toronto snuck in because of the efforts of one Ewing Kauffman, who knew about Toronto baseball thanks to his wife Muriel, who was a Torontonian. So Seattle got their team in 1977, and I can't remember if they won their first game. I think they didn't. But yeah, 1977 happened, and then the Mariners were just hanging around. The only problem with Seattle is that they were futility before futility became cool. In fact, it took them 14 years from the start of their franchise to get a winning record, and that was 1991. 14 years. The Expos were fast. The Expos in 1979 got their first winning season, so that was 10 years by comparison. Yeah, Seattle was the longest without a winning season. Heck, even the Tampa Bay Rays in their 11th season, their 10th year in the league, got faster than Seattle getting a winning season. Seattle was like, what the heck? You know, you play in this cavernous stadium. You basically have teams trying to make things right, and it just doesn't work out. So the Seattle Mariners plodded along in 91. They came through, and then Nintendo decided to buy them. But Seattle was building. I mean, they had the first overall pick when they got Ken Griffey Jr. in 1987, and Griffey was big in 89. Griffey Jr. was just part of the young core and all that. Seattle had a plan. They got A-Rod with the number one pick in the 93 draft. So Alex Rodriguez was coming into his own. Seattle was going homegrown, and by 1995, they felt okay. Unfortunately, Seattle baseball was suffering. The attendance was bad, the stadium was bad, the team was kind of bad. There were rumors circulating that the Mariners were going to move away from Seattle, probably to Tampa Bay, possible. But the fact of the matter was that, you know, the 95 pennant drive saved Seattle baseball. I mean, they were down 2 games to none to the Yankees. They had the next 3 games of the ALDS, or the first wildcard series ever in the American League in 1995. They had the 3 games at home. They won game 3 naturally with Randy Johnson being good. And then game 4 was broken over by Edgar Martinez's grand slam off John Wetland in the 8th. And then the game 5, it was epic. The Mariners were in trouble. They were down 4-1 to the Yankees, headed to the bottom of the 8th. But then Griffey skied one into right field for his 5th home run of the series, making it 4-2. And then a series of strange events happened, and Seattle ended up tying the Yankees. Yankees scored in the top of the 11th off of Randy Johnson, but then the Mariners scored twice in the bottom 11th, and we could all envision, if we're all Seattle fans like one Jason Lindgren, we could envision Edgar Martinez's ball going to the left field corner and Gerald Williams trying to dig it out as Joey Cora scored, and then Griffey decided to come to the plate. And in a massive move, the Mariners win the game. They win the series. They face Cleveland. They lose the ALCS, but it brought Seattle back. And Seattle decided to have that referendum on the ballpark funds, and it worked. Everything got reversed, and they got to build Safeco Field for the 1997 season. Seattle plodded along a few playoff series here and there, and in 2000 they had that miraculous ALDS against the White Sox. They swept the very heavily favored Chicago White Sox. Not only that, Carlos Guillen with that amazing bunt single as he bunted out of the air past the drawn-in infield and scored the winning run. All of that. Seattle after 2001 just crumbled. It took them 22 years to get to the playoffs. Or was it 21? I think it was 21. Yeah, 21, 2022. And when you know it, guess who they faced in their first playoff series since 2001? The Blue Jays. My beloved Blue Jays. And the Mariners came back from that 8-1 deficit in game 2 of the wildcard series. A game that Toronto still has not gotten over after that 8-1 choke. I mean, yeah, we did lose a couple people, like George Springer in that collision in the 8th inning, but still. Seattle baseball is back. Like, they're decent and all that. And they've been making good moves. They've been known for their not so wise moves. But regardless of that, we're going to take a look at the 2001 season, the season to remember, and to make Seattle the most winningest team in modern history. So the 2001 Mariners season was the 25th season, the silver season in Mariners history, and shocked a lot of people with 116 wins. Their 716 winning percentage was actually the highest ever only surpassed in modern baseball by the 2020 Dodgers, who were 43-17 in the pandemic shortened season for 7-16-6-7. So the Dodgers, if they had that many, I don't know, they probably would have had 116 wins, but of course that was COVID. And yes, the 2020 Dodgers did win the World Series. So yeah, the 1906 Cubs had 116 wins, but those Cubs only played 152 games, whereas the Mariners played 162. So anyway, 59 of the 116 wins were by 4 or more runs. So that was just over more than half. The record was broken by the 2022 Dodgers with 60 of them. They actually scored the most runs and gave up the fewest. They actually had the record for the most wins above replacement or WAR by a team in Major League history of 50.4 in that one season. Even the Murderers Row couldn't do it. They only had 48.7. So it was just unreal. So anyway, 2001 was known for Ichiro signing as a free agent from Japan, where he played 7 years for the Oryx Blue Wave and was a star in Japan. And basically, Japanese players would be hot, like coming to the American pastime, like Hideo Nomo, or cold, like Hideki Irabu. But yet, nobody anticipated Ichiro leading the American League in batting average his first year and winning both Rookie of the Year and MVP. And you're thinking, well, has that ever happened before? It has happened before. 1975, Fred Lynn was Rookie of the Year and MVP. Seattle would host the All-Star Game, which was one of the most famous All-Star Games of all time because that was the end of Cal Ripken Jr. and Tony Gwynn's All-Star careers. And had so many Seattle players. It was so big for that All-Star Game, in fact, that Alex Rodriguez would actually allow Cal Ripken to play shortstop, which was Ripken's natural position. Anyway, the Mariners looked good and all that. They won 110 plus games and failed to win the World Series. They were the first team, but the 2022 Dodgers were the second team. The Mariners would not reach the postseason until 2022, and of course, they took care of the Blue Jays. So the Mariners picked up Scott Podsednik, can't remember, I think from Milwaukee, and then free agency, and then they picked up Ichiro November 18th, and then December they picked up Brett Boone from the Braves. So the 2001 Mariners roster is this. They're pitching Norm Charlton, part of the Nasty Boys of the Reds. Ryan Franklin, who was supposed to be the big name, the next Randy Johnson, but he floundered. Freddie Garcia, a massive trade from part of the Randy Johnson to Houston trade in 1998, alongside John Halama. J.B. Moyer, the ageless one. Jeff Nelson, great reliever for the Yankees at one time. Arthur Rhodes, who was kind of a washout at first, a relief pitcher. Kaz Sasaki, who was the closer for the Mariners and the 2000 AL Rookie of the Year. Aaron Seeley and Brett Tomko complementing the pitching rotation. Catchers, former Blue Jays icon and 1992 World Series MVP Pat Borders, Tom Lampkin, and Dan Wilson, who has been around the Mariners for so many years. Infielders, you got David Bell, Brett Boone, Carlos Guillen, John Olerud, another former Blue Jay, and another former member of the back-to-back World Series titles for the Blue Jays, alongside Pat Borders. Ed Sprague, also there, and Ramon Vasquez. Outfielders, Jay Buhner, Mike Cameron, Stan Javier, Al Martin, the big boys, Mark McLemore, Scott Podsednik, and Ichiro Suzuki, with Edgar Martinez being the full-time DH. Lou Piniella being the manager. 116 wins for the Mariners. The A's had 102. The Mariners were fantastic. Their worst winning percentage against the team was Oakland. They were 10-9 against Oakland. That was the worst. Their best winning percentage was an 8-1 mark against the Orioles and the Twins. In the NL against the West, where they would play interleague, they were 12-6. So yeah, Oakland was the only team that gave them nightmares. April, they went 20-5, which was amazing. May, 20-7. I mean, back-to-back 20 wins months. That's amazing. June, 18-9. That's still a 667 winning percentage, or winning 2 out of every 3 games. July, 18-9. Same thing, 2 out of 3, 667. August 20-9, September 15-6, and October 5-1. So they were 20-7 combined. Can you imagine this? Yeah, 8 Mariners were in the All-Star game, and the American League won 4-1. The main guys were Dan Wilson at catcher, John Irwin at first, Brett Boone at second, David Bell at third, Carlos Guillen at short, Al Martin in left, Mike Cameron in center, Ichiro in right, and Edgar DHing. And then you got the starting rotation. All 5 guys got 10 wins. Freddie Garcia got 18. Aaron Seeley got 15 wins. Jimmy Moore, the ageless one, with 20. Paul Abbott with 17, of all people, and John Halama with 10. Relief-wise, Kaz had 45 saves. So that's what happened there. See the farm system and all that. And oh, by the way, I didn't mention this, obviously, is that the Mariners in 2001 did this 116 wins without 2 legendary Mariners, Ken Griffey Jr. and Alex Rodriguez. Griffey Jr. had some contract things. He wanted to sign closer to home, so he was traded to Cincinnati for David Bell. So yeah, so Griffey went back to Cincy because his father Ken Sr. was an outfielder for the Big Red Machine of the Reds, and he grew up in Cincy. So he went back to Cincinnati. He came back to Seattle for a year and a bit. But yeah, they did it without Griffey Jr. and also A-Rod, because A-Rod was huge, #1 draft pick by the Mariners in the '93 draft. He was good, but he wanted big boy money, and Texas gave him a 10-year deal worth over for $25 million a year, for the richest contract in baseball history at the time. And people thought that A-Rod just sold out. A-Rod would have a solid season for Texas, but they were shit. So in the postseason, they took on the Cleveland Indians in the ALDS. They were actually down 2-1 and all that. They almost got upset heavily. They lost game 1 at home 5-0. They came back to win 5-1 in game 2. They got their asses handed to them 17-2 in game 3. And then game 4, they won 6-2, in game 5, 3-1. Fortunately for Seattle, they avoided a massive choke, not even making it past the first round. And let's not forget, Cleveland gave Seattle fits, especially the one game that Seattle actually had a 10-run game lead at one point, and then they choked it away. In the ALCS, they had no chance against the Yankees. They won game 3 in New York, which was shocking. They couldn't win the 2 games at home because Pettit and Mussina just took them for a ride and all that. So that was just like unreal. But that's what happened. Not to mention that Aaron Seeley fell apart in the postseason, going 0-3. So yeah, the Mariners couldn't make a series out of it against the Yankees. I mean, everyone wanted the Yankees to win because, after all, it was 9/11 aftermath. So yeah, but still, yeah, I feel for Jason Lindgren. I think it was 19 when he's born in 82, so I'm born in 85. So Lindgren was 19 years old, going into community college, just doing all this stuff, and the sky was the limit on him, my fellow Aspie, and all that, because he suffered from Asperger's syndrome as well as I do. So yeah, but yeah, he has to enjoy himself with the Seattle Mariners and all that. So for the benefit of him and the benefit of this series, we're gonna say, what if the Mariners actually did win the ALCS and face the Arizona Diamondbacks in the National League? Because we don't change the National League narrative. So what if it was Mariners versus Diamondbacks in the World Series? Would it be interesting? I would say so. Let's find out. So we got ourselves a World Series between the Seattle Mariners and the Arizona Diamondbacks. So Seattle, with their 116 wins, will start Freddie Garcia in game 1, assuming, of course, they moved on to the World Series, taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks with Randy Johnson as a starter. I guess you can kind of say it's Lindgren versus Diamond, because Jason's team is Seattle. My team would be Diamond. Well, the Diamondbacks have Diamond in their name. So anyway, let's start game 1. Game 1 sees the Diamondbacks win 4-2. First run was scored by Brett Boone with an RBI single score Olerud. And then Ichiro hit a single in the 5th to make it 2-0. But Luis Gonzalez went deep in the left field to make it 2-1. And then the bottom of the 8th, Durazo came in the pinch hit for Randy. He hits a single. Robert Ellis becomes a pinch runner. Council walks. Gonzalez hits a fielder's choice. Bases first and third. Sanders walks. Grace flies out to right, but not deep enough. So that's out number 2. And then Matt Williams hits a double down the left field line to score Ellis, Gonzalez, and Sanders, with Jeff Nelson having to come in to pitch. Finley single, David Miller strikes out. Byung Kim came in for the save. Cameron walked, McLemore hits into a fielder's choice. Bell flies out, and Dan Wilson's out. So Randy went went 8 innings before Byung Kim came in. Freddie Garcia went through everything, but then he blew it. Jamie Moyer started game 2 against Kirk Schilling because the rule of thumb is that I start the pitching rotations in real life. And then we see the 10th inning, the Diamondbacks win the game. The Mariners actually were up 3-0 after Cameron gets a 2 RBI double to score Ichiro Boone, and then Bell singles to score Cameron. It was 3-0. And then Jay Bell went deep in the left field line, bottom of the second, 3-2. Olerud makes it 4-2. So at 4-2, bottom of the 7th, Cameron misplays a drive. Bell reaches in. Durazo comes in to pitch hit, singles to make it first and third. Craig Counsell gets hit by a pitch. Lugo singles to score Bell to make it 4-3. Reggie Sanders takes a bases loaded walk to tie the game. Nelson comes in the pitch. Grace takes the bases loaded walk to make it 5-4. Williams strikes out. Finley strikes out, and Miller pops up. In the 8th, nothing really happens. In the 9th, Byung Kim came in for the save. Edgar comes into pinch hit because no DH. He walks. Charles Gibson comes into pinch run. He's still second. Ichiro grounds out to get Ichiro to Gibson to third. Olerud hits a sac fly and make it 5-5. Boone singles. Cameron strikes out looking. Kasasaki comes in to pitch the 9th. Lugo, Sanders, and Grace are all out. And then the 10th inning, McElberg walks, takes second base. Brohan pitches, gets Bell and Wilson to walk, and then Eric Sable comes in to pitch. Guillen hits a fly ball to center, but not too deep. Ed Sprague comes in to pinch hit and flies out the center and gets McLemore with a sac fly. Ichiro rounds out 6-5, so it was over. Norm Charlton, former closer for the Reds, comes in. Matt Williams hits a single to left. Finley walks, Miller walks, and then Jay Bell hits a single. They try to relay to get Steve Finley, but they fail, and the Diamondbacks are up 2-0, just like in real life. Game 3 sees Brian Anderson pitch against Aaron Seeley. DH being Edgar and Womack. Good idea. And the Diamondbacks crush the Mariners 9-1. Reggie Sanders goes deep. Reggie, 2-0. And then in the third, Counsell doubles to score Womack. Lugo doubles to score Counsell. And then Grace singles to score Lugo. John Olerud hits an RBI single to score Ichiro to make it 5-1. Womack singles to score Bell. Then Grace singles to score Lugo, and Williams grounds into a double play. Counsell grounds into a double play to score Bell. It was 9-1, and it was just basically nothing. Seeley went 3 2/3 innings while Joe Pinero came in for 4 1/3, and Ryan Franklin pitched the 9th. Anderson went 6 innings. Reynoso pitched the final 3 innings and got the save. So then Randy Johnson goes into Seattle, like a rarity, and will face Brady Garcia. Will Randy Johnson sink his former team? The answer is not yet. Despite being out hit 8-4, they win 2-0. The 2 runs come in the 5th as Guillen singles to score McLemore and Ichiro grounds out to score Wilson. Diamondbacks do have the bases loaded after a Louis Gonzalez walk, but Sanders strikes out. Sasaki comes in for the save. Bells flies out. Womack hits a single, but Counsell hits into a double play, 2-0. Garcia went 7, then Nelson and Sasaki. Randy Johnson went all 8 innings. So it will be Curt Schilling, and Jamie Moyer for game number 5. And the Mariners win again 2-1. So the Mariners have made a massive comeback to make it 3-2. Mark Cameron went deep to make it 1-0 for the Mariners. And then another home run. 2 home runs for Matt Cameron, 2-0. Steve Finley hits a single, scored Lugo to make it 2-1. And then Miller lined out in the seventh. Sasaki for the save. Lugo, Sanders, and Grace all are out. So we go to game 6. Moyer went 7 innings for the win. Nelson and Sasaki doing their jobs. Schilling pitching all 8 innings. So we go back to Arizona for game number 6. Which means, of course, it's Sealy versus Anderson. And it is not over. The Mariners win the game 8-3. Can they reverse sweep the Arizona Diamondbacks? Mariners score 2 runs in the 4th. David Bell double scored McLemore. Anderson throws a wild pitch. David Miller hits a single to score Matt Williams. Durazo comes in to pinch hit for Anderson, and then he hits an RBI double down the right field line, making Bobby Witt pitch. It was 2-2 for the longest time till the 8th when Brent Prince came in the pitch. Olerud walks, Boone flies out, Cameron walks, McLemore walks, then Bell hits a single to score Olerud and Cameron to make it 4-2. Brohan comes in the pitch. Dan Wilson gets an RBI single from McLemore. Guillen singles Bell home. Edgar Martinez comes into the pitch hit, draws the walk. Ichiro then hits a double to score Wilson and Guillen to make it 8-2, and Reynoso has to come in the pitch. Mark Grace does go deep off Nelson in the inning. Rhodes comes in for the 9th. Bell walks. DeLucci comes in the pinch hit for Reynoso. He strikes out. Council singles. Lugo strikes out, and Reggie strikes out. So the Mariners are 8-3. Anderson only goes 4. Witt goes 3. Prince technically ruins it for him. Brohan with the infinite ERA and Reynoso. Sealy, Nelson, Rhodes. Guess what? We got game 7. Freddie Garcia and Randy Johnson going toe to toe. Who will win? It is the Diamondbacks. Oh. After all that effort to force a game 7, Seattle loses 10-3. So the Diamondbacks do win in 7 games anyway. Freddie Garcia pitches in the first. Reggie Sanders goes deep for a 2-run shot. David Miller singles Grace home, and Jay Bell hits a double to score Williams and Miller. 5-0. Guillen singles to make it 5-1. Grace doubles to score Sanders, and Finley singles to score Grace 7-1. Brett Boone hits a home run to make it 7-2. Lugo doubles to score Bell to make it 8-2. And Ryan Franklin comes in to pitch. No scoring until the bottom of the 6th when Matt Williams goes deep. Brett Boone made it 9-3 with a home run, but in the end it wasn't enough. Finley singles 10-3. Guillen grounds out. Edgar Martinez pinch hits, walks by Ichiro, hits on fielder's choice, but also pitches for the final out and gets Olerud. So Randy goes 7 innings. Prince an inning and 2/3. Did better this time. Reynoso comes in for the third out. I don't know why. Garcia only lasted 2 1/3, giving up 8 runs. Franklin went 3 1/3. Pinero 2 1/3. So the bullpen was busy, but yeah. But the Mariners tried oh so much, but they couldn't finish the job. They could have reverse swept the Diamondbacks, but it didn't happen. As the Arizona Diamondbacks would have won the World Series, and Seattle got hosed. Yuck. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.